Good morning and welcome to Budget Model Railways. I thought I'd try to start a new series and call it Train Shed Tuesdays. As you know, I used to do tutorial Tuesdays, but I've got my shed now that's all been reclad and everything. Yes, it is a mess. We've had debates about mess. I am going to tidy it up a little bit, but I do work in a bit of chaos. But actually, it's not as disorganised as it looks, and I'll come to that in a minute. So I just thought it must be nice, perhaps once a month, I'll just have a bit of a, caught me tripod there, bit of a ramble and a rant, if you like, about what I'm doing with model railways and anything that comes to mind that's railway related. Either four of us will watch it, and I'll stop doing it, or people will like it. Is it Out of Town by Jack Hargreaves? Anybody that remembers that? So just me, sat in my shed, once a month, rambling about stuff to do with railways. Let's see how it goes anyway. So this is the first Train Shed Tuesdays. So what am I doing at the moment? Well, at the moment, those of you that have been following us, and if you've not been following us, why not? Please subscribe and have a look at the videos for the layouts that I'm doing. So at the moment, I've been working on ballasting this track. Yes, I know, I don't normally do ballasting, but it's been quite fun. I've done it a bit in Engage. I've just made a little video about how to ballast points. So look out for that. That will come out in the next few days. So if you're intrigued about what I'm doing here, there are 3 videos a little bit further back about ballasting, and there's a new one coming up. Most important thing, of course, if you're going to do railways is cup of tea, and that's in my Warmington-on-Sea Home Guard mug. A lot of people think that's very appropriate after my 24 years in the Army Cadet Force, and I have to say, I think I met just about every single one of those characters at some point. That's how accurate it was. And yeah, I'm sure I had elements of Captain Mannering. Not quite so much. That's a little bit more fiery than that. And I've just finished a year ago as a colonel. So yeah, I've got a few links to that sort of thing. I did have a little talk, and if you watch the video about ballasting, I do quite enjoy doing these videos. I'm a bit of a talker. I've got a bit of a nickname at the Sompting Club, apparently, of Chatty Mike. I was a salesman for a great many years, well, all my working life, actually, and particularly cold calling retailers, opening new accounts, which means going up and talking to strangers. And I just got very used to it. I like people, I like nattering away, and I talk too much. And I'm not good with patience. And model railways helps the patience, and it probably rather encourages the talking too much. But it's just one of those things. For me, it became a skill, and it's relevant actually to model railways, because when you're exhibiting, and I'll show my Japanese layout while we're talking about exhibiting. It's interesting how many exhibitors don't talk. They hide behind the layout. They fiddle around running trains. Yes, if you talk to them, they'll have a talk sometimes, but some people even then are not very talkative. I used to do trade exhibitions, so I'm used to talking. I like going to railway exhibitions. I natter away to people about their layouts, and sometimes it is hard work getting people talking. Not always, so you always get the real enthusiasts, but it's an interesting one. You know, when we go to an exhibition, if you're exhibiting, I think you should talk as much as you could to people that are watching. And I think as visitors, just sipping my tea, as visitors, we have a responsibility to talk to the exhibitors, you know, show an interest in what they've done. They've gone to a lot of time and trouble. So this now is my nearly finished Japanese exhibition layout. I'm going to do a video on this later on. This was built for diesels, but it suddenly dawned on me yesterday, I've got a couple of very nice Kato Japanese steam locos. So I've got my shorter, older Japanese wagons out. And oh my, these things are wonderful at shunting. They run so smoothly and quietly. They might have sort of bogie trucks, that's a 264, but they have no trouble with these bigger Kato points. The Arnold uncouplers work fine with just an uncoupling hook, but bent bit of wire on a tube. Sorry for people that disagree, but if you don't mind doing a shunting pole, and after all you're doing is replicating what they would do in real life. I did some wonderful shunting yesterday, and there's a video I'll do on that. finally finished that. That was a bit fiddly. That was a 3D print off. I'm not sure if that came out. That was Doug ringing me on the phone. I'll get back to him in a minute. That came off eBay. A little bit fiddly to make, but it looks nice in the goods yard there. So those of you that have been following, you know that's for my cards for my filing system, card system for shunting. Very pleased with the rural end of this one. So I suppose quick tour, I've got layouts stored there. That's what's left of some of my 00 stuff, some of what's got to be sold. That's the 3D print of me Doug did a few years ago using a 3D scanner. It's one of my favourite paintings of the Dowbusters 617 Squadron. I picked that up at Goodwood Festival of Speed a few years ago. Sadly, I couldn't afford the original print, but the postcard's wonderful. That's them at low level over Holland. That's the figure that my father painted, late father, all way back in the 1980s, and that used to sit on my desk. And that's my old sign from when I was a retail manager. Doug's 3D printed Tron bike. That layout I've got to get going. I really want to get it finished off, but it's lost its power. So I unfortunately blocked the end of the power in, so I've got to punch a hole in that. But that was the one that went on 2 bits to go in the motorbike top box that I no longer have the top box. So I've fixed it together as a one-piece layout, and I have managed to pick up a really nice Graham Farish Class 14, so that's going to run on there. So there we go. That's the first little attempt at Train Shed Tuesdays. We'll see how they come along. Interesting debates we've had about tidiness. Quite a lot of people supporting me that it's sometimes quite difficult to be creative in a really tidy area. I know Airfix a few years ago did a post of somebody's modelling bench, not a thing on it, all tidily done, all the paints in numerical order, yada yada yada. And I actually messaged it and went, this is a put up job. That's nobody's real workbench. That's been created in a studio to give the impression. Under here I've got the other N gauge layout that I might be exhibiting at Pevensey in July. I've just got to check my calendar. Underneath there, that's the baseboard for the O gauge layout. Unfortunately, that got held up because the ply, as you can see, wouldn't clean up. That's roofing felt stuck to it from where it was used before. So I've got to find a new top for that before I can do my O gauge. The O gauge is going to be old Lima O gauge, not the modern stuff, including the track. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Got my little fire down there to keep the frost. It's mostly condensation, actually. I discovered when it was really well insulated that when you got a cold night, all this was running with water. So I just leave the little heater on its frost setting overnight. So there we go. That's a bit of a chat for today. Let's see what kind of feedback we get. Is this something people are going to like? If it is, then I'll try and do, say, one a month. Just a little natter about railways and stuff over a cup of tea. And we can all see, you can sit down, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, or if it's in the evening, I suppose an alcoholic beverage is acceptable if it's over the yard arm. Sadly, I have something called Barrett's esophagus, and one of the side effects of that is I can't drink alcohol. It could be a lot worse. I'm not complaining. I know there's many of you out there suffering far worse, but I do miss a little glass of whiskey sat down playing with trains in the evening. But there you go, cup of tea. I was going to say something there I'm probably not allowed to say, so I won't. Anyway, let's just say that the British did very well out of drinking tea. Sorry for those of you abroad that might be offended by that. Our friends across the pond. And I will say I will avoid, and please avoid in the comments, politics or anything like that. Let's keep this to model railways. The sane world of model railways and model railroads, or model barn if you're in Germany. We do get comments. Australia, New Zealand, India. Now, India's an interesting one because you've got this huge country with fabulous railways. But as I understand it, model railways are not particularly big in India. I'm just going to put this down on the tripod. No, I'm not. It might stop a bit of the shake. Same with China. You know, this massive market that produces most of the world's model trains, but apparently has a very small model railway market and culture. If I'm wrong, please confirm. But I'd like to see some evidence of it, because certainly what I've heard is it's not as big as you would expect. Certainly the interesting thing is that Japan is a much bigger model railway market, for instance, than even the UK, which is interesting. So there we go. Thank you for listening to me ranting on for 10 minutes. If we don't find that only 4 people in the dog watch this, I'll do one in a month's time. Thanks for now.